Hi everybody, welcome to our video about the 60-30-10 rule of growth. The 60-30-10 rule of growth is a concept that we developed in working with lots of fast-growing businesses over the last 25 years. In order to explain it, I need to take you back to when you started your business. A good way of thinking about this is using something called Maslow's Hierarchy of needs. Some of you might be familiar with this. So what Maslow did is he identified the chronological order that human beings meet their needs. He started with what he called physiological needs. So this is stuff like air, water, food, shelter, sleep, clothing, reproduction. Now you don't need to be a business owner to be able to meet all of those needs. But once you've given up the security of a job, those needs still need to be met, and some of them are not free. So your small business is going to need to earn enough to pay for your food, to pay your mortgage, to pay all those other living costs that you've got. So the next of those needs is safety. So this is stuff like personal security, resources, health, property. As your business grows and you start to get beyond what we might call your basic break-even point, i.e. the point where you're making enough money to just pay the basics, then you're going to start thinking about extra money coming out to be able to move to a bigger house. The third one is love and belonging. Now most of our clients start their businesses in typically their early to mid 30s. Not everyone, some start earlier, some start later, but that's a sort of a typical point, and a lot of them are in a long-term relationship or have children, etc. So they're looking for their business to not just support them, but also to support their family. Once those three basic needs are met, a certain amount of pressure is off of the typical business owner. The next one of these is esteem. Once you've got beyond that point where your business is generating enough income to meet all those other needs, then you start thinking a little bit more long-term. You start thinking about what your business is going to be, the potential that it's got to achieve. You start thinking about the people that are relying on you as well. This can be a double-edged sword. A lot of people get to this stage and find it very hard to step back, especially when times get harder. But assuming that you've met all of those four needs and wants, then you can move along to the rarefied atmosphere of what is known as self-actualization. This is where you've got the money and the time to achieve the things that you really want to achieve. That might just be sitting by a swimming pool, reading books and sipping champagne, or it might be that you've got other ambitions that you want to achieve. So you can track some of this stuff through the life cycle of a business. And traditionally, people think of a business as having four different stages. The first stage is the development stage. So this is when the business is getting up and running and you're putting all the things in place for success. Then we move on to the growth stage. This is when things are running really well, you're picking up lots of new business and the business is going from strength to strength. Eventually you'll reach the maturity stage. This is where the business has perhaps peaked. And once it gets to that point, the only way is down and it might move into a stage of decline. Now that could take place over a few years or it could take place over 50, 60 years. Some businesses have never moved into that decline phase, even though they were formed 100 years ago. Who knows how long your business is going to be around. At maturity, the growth of the business is zero, but profits are maximised. You pretty much know what you're doing. You haven't got to spend time or money on growth issues, just those that make you a profit. But if you're still at the growth stage of development, what you're going to realise is that growth is never smooth. I'm going to introduce you to something that we call the growth worm. Here it is. So what you'll see is that rather than a nice smooth line of growth, you'll go up a bit, then you hit a plateau, and then up again and hit a plateau. Let's focus on those plateaus for a minute. I've highlighted them in red on this slide. These are the problems that you get. We often say to clients, what got you here won't get you there, whatever there means to you. That might be because your way of doing business that has brought you customers in or has helped make you profitable only worked at a certain size. Now you've reached a higher level, it doesn't work anymore. If you managed all the contracts of the business, for example, it may be that you only have enough time to manage 10 contracts. So when you get to 11, there won't be as much profit on the 11th one as there were on the previous 10 because you can't manage it. Worse, it could be that the previous 10 are no longer managed as well and are not making profit either. People often get very frustrated that their levels of growth that they've achieved up to now aren't being achieved going forward. So if you're on one of those plateaus, let's talk about what's stopping you from taking the next up bit on the growth worm.